Okay, so the last chapter, the collection of prayers. I'll be saying that every month, and I will repeat every month that these are suggestions of how to connect with the divinity that we seek to connect to through prayers. This is not a formula for anyone to use, to memorize, but it's just suggestions that Kardec and the good spirits bring to us due to our difficulty very often to initiate this process by ourselves, since we still, most of us, have this atavic conditioning of expecting things to be done for us, to be start for us when it comes to spirituality, to follow the recipes, so to say, on how to do things. So Kardec offered to us all these many possibilities that we can use when you seek to enter with a deeper connection with a good spirit around us. And but of course, with Jesus Christ, with God. And another thing that Kardec initiates this chapter, and I think is good to remind, is a purpose when you do anything. So pray also with a purpose, right? And is it because of this purpose that Kardec puts many different topics to ask for this, to ask for that, to look for this, to look for that. You have a purpose, you have an objective. And that's where he divided the chapter. And now the purpose here is to ask for counsel. Sarayda?
Yes. We begin. To ask for counsel. Introduction. Whenever we are unsure about doing or not doing something, we should, before anything else, ask ourselves the following questions. Number one, can the thing I am hesitant to cause any harm to someone else? Might it be useful to someone? If someone else were to do it to me, would I be happy about it? If the manner has to do only with oneself, one should balance the sum of the personal advantages and disadvantages that may result from it. Okay, continue. Number 4.
It has to do with other persons. Yeah.
If it has to do with other persons, and if doing the good for one person might do evil to another, one must also weigh the sum of the good and evil in order to abstain or to act. Finally, even for the best things, one must still consider the opportunity and the surrounding circumstances. For a thing that is good per se may lead to bad results in unskillful hands if not done with prudence and circumspection. Before undertaking it, one ought to consider one's willpower and the means of carrying it out. In all cases, one can always ask for the assistance of one's protective spirits, recalling this wise maxim: if in doubt, abstain.
Thanks. So what Kardec suggests to us here is to do our part, right? To do our homework. To use our own reasoning in association with our conscience when we are ready to start a project, when we start ready to start something, to use this guideline, those questions over here with absolute sincerity, of course, trying to be fully naked of all of our prejudice as much as possible, again, right? And be totally honest with the answers that for these questions, right? Can I think I am hesitant to do cause harm to someone else? Might it be useful to anyone else? if someone else were to do it to me, would I be happy about it? And I think everyone has experienced circumstances in which, even when we seek to be sincere and have an answer for these questions, we kind of get lost. We kind of don't have clarity. We don't have a complete certainty of the answer that you give to those questions, right? How to deal with situations, because when you go to those three questions and you have absolute certainty, you are very convinced. It could be a mistake, but you're still very convinced of those answers. Then you have your answers basically. You may get it wrong. Nobody's perfect, but it's exactly when you are hesitant about your own answers, you're not unsure, then personally, I think that the only recourse is to trust the assistance for those who are better prepared to help us to answer those questions. And I don't think there's anyone better to do that than our guardian angels or protecting spirits, for those of us who believe in it, of course. We have a reasonable faith on this communicability of the good spirits to help us. That does not mean that we should not recourse to those incarnate around us as well, right? Family members, individuals that we trust. We are a community and should make use of that community as much as we should allow others to make use of what we have to offer as well. But even with that, even when we recourse to those who perhaps has more experience and you listen to them and you trust them, but you're still kind of unsure, I think prayer is the answer to help us to find the answer that we are seeking, that we are looking for. In truth, there's a lot of things that we do in life that, although good, it may disrupt someone else in some circumstances. For everything, basically, or almost everything, I'll not say everything, but most things, perhaps, everything has no pros and cons, right? Almost everything has its negative sides. Everything has a side effect, so to say, right? So it's likely that we reach a conclusion that this is the best thing to do for the general, but I understand that it may not favor this or that. And then I have to put on that scale of pros and cons, of negatives and positives, and be very fair with that scale and make a decision based on that. If the scale favors the pros, yeah, go ahead and do it. And again, we may get it wrong.
Yeah.
We may get it wrong, but at least you did that, your homework. And when you allow the good spirits to assist you, chances are that you're going to get it right. I think it's very important is finally, even for the best things, one must still consider the opportunity and the surrounding circumstances, for the thing that is good per se may lead to bad results in unskillful hands if done with prudence and circumspection. One of the things that we say now, hell is full of goodwill. Goodwill is absolutely essential for action, but it's not everything. One must consider, with all my goodwill, with all my best of intentions, is this a good time to do it? Is it the right time to do it? Are the conditions around, the circumstances around favorable for this or for that? And of course, this is a very abstract conversation because one may bring, okay, oh, but what is to do what? To do anything and everything, even to speak, even to open your mouth and say something. This is an application, very broad things that just things that are considering over here. Even to speak and to do things. It may be the right thing to do, but not the right time. It may be the right thing to do, but not the right circumstances. Right? And sometimes, through prayer, you have a better clarity of all those circumstances, all those things that you should consider. In an inspiration may come to you. Well, I want to do this, but if I do this now, that will be the consequence later ahead. If I wait a couple of days, perhaps I can minimize that consequences. An inspiration that comes to you and guides you, right? So through prayer, we can reach that. If in doubt, abstain. Yeah, I agree with that. But one thing that I was thinking when I read that is, what is the source of the doubt? Why am I doubting it? It's a good thing, so why the doubt? Would that be an inspiration itself? Would be a help that of the good spirituality asking you, hey, just think about this and that before you act. And perhaps through prayer, you may have the clarity to eliminate those doubts and act, or to eliminate those doubts and not act, which is equally important. Let's do the prayer and then I'll open for questions and comments.
Okay. Prayer 25. In the name of our God Almighty, I ask the good spirits watching over me to inspire me to make the best decision in the uncertainty in which I find myself. Direct my thought to the good and divert the influence of those who would tempt me off the path.
Okay. Any comments, questions? No? All right.
Okay.
To direct my thoughts to the good and divert the influence of those who would tempt me off the path. I think this, as I'm saying to Alita, there's two things here, right? To act or not to act. And when it's come not to act, why? I know it's good. Not to act because I'm being lazy, not to act because I'm scared, not to act because although it's good, it's not the right time to do it, it's not the right circumstance to do it, or another possibility, not to act because the influence of those who would tempt me off the path. I know it's good, but some people that don't want me to do good. Or I want the good to reach or the individuals that there would be the consequence of my action. Maybe they have nothing against me, maybe they have against those who would benefit from my action. Or maybe they have against me. And they try to hold me to be on that path of good. Through prayer, definitely, we would be vigilant and be protected from those harmful influences. Okay, any comments? Otherwise, let's go 26.
Okay. During life's afflictions, We can ask God for earthly favors, and we may grant them to us if they have a useful and serious purpose. However, since we judge the usefulness of things from our own point of view, and since our vision is limited to the present, we do not always see the bad side of what we desire. God, who sees better than we do, and who wants only our good, may thus refuse us, just as a father refuses to give his child what might be harmful. If what we have asked for is not granted, we must not become discouraged. On the contrary, we ought to think that the refusal of what we desire is being imposed on us as a trial or expiation, and that our recompense will be proportionate to the resignation with which we will have borne it.
Is life afflictions, right? What is it? Again, it's a very broad statement here. What are life afflictions? I think it can be objective in a sense that 1% of people would agree that a new diagnosis of cancer could be a life affliction, death of a loved one, or the calamities that is happening throughout this world, and we are so privileged to kind of watch it from afar, right? But there are thousands, millions that are there being victimized with those calamities. Migraines headache, is that a calamity? Why not? Someone who suffers from migraines, it's very easy for me to say no because I don't have it, right? As someone who periodically has to be inside of a dark room in absolute silence to be able to go through that process. For me, it's easy to say, no, it's not an affliction. Well, I'm not living it. For some people, dandruff is an affliction. It's the judgment. I don't think a dandruff should be considered a calamity, but who am I to judge who is having dandruff? Right. So it's very broad. What is an affliction? I think the more we are experienced in life, the more we open ourselves to these kind of readings and see what's going throughout this world, our understanding of afflictions gets closer to a common denominator of what should really be considered an affliction. The story of the guy who, during the fetal system, was to live inside of the walls of that particular fetal system, and was always crying and complaining and very sad. until one day one of his friends said, just get out of those walls of the fetal system and walk out there. Just, and come back. Maybe it's make you happy a little bit, so depressed. And this guy decided to do that, and he went out, spent half a day there, and came back very jubilant, very happy, and very content. And his friend asked, well, what changed so fast? And he said, well, I spent my entire life whining, complaining that I had no shoes. When I see the feudal family, the people now in the castle, they all have beautiful shoes, more than one shoes even, each person. And that really makes me sad. And the guy asked him, and what changed? Well, when I walked there, I saw a lot of people had no feet. And completely changed his attitude. So what is affliction? You take it personal, it varies. But regardless what it is for purpose, right? Otherwise, God would not allow us to suffer. God does not want us to suffer. God does not want us to go to affliction. If you believe in a God who is all love and justice, who loves us regardless of all of the mistakes and doing, you have to imagine that all that God provides to us are good for our good. And that includes the afflictions, right? And we will understand that most of the causes of afflictions are self-inflicted, right? We'd imagine that God, being a loving just, did not give it to us, but we, through our behavior, through our misguided actions, deviated from the path, and you have to readjust ourselves to go back to that path. And going back to that path is good, but it may be hard, may be difficult, may cost us a little pain here and there for our own good. Otherwise, God would not let us go through it. And we need to believe, if you believe in this God's love and justice, that all those things would have an end. And that we will only go through those afflictions for as long as it's needed, so to say. So I think it makes sense to pray and ask for the end of the afflictions. Means that help me, guide me to do what I need to do to get to the end of this. Not to take it away from this, to learn the lessons that I'm supposed to learn from this. To get everything that these opportunities providing for me, to have clarity of what is should I be getting from this. Because it's exactly, since we judge the usefulness of things from our own point of view, since our vision is limited to the present, we do not always see the bad side of what we desire. Well, nobody desires affliction, right? But you would understand that eliminating that affliction, that moment, may cause more harm than good for the eternal spirit. It may be good for the present. I don't want to go through this pain right now. Well, you go to that pain right now and you go through the process, eliminate the cause of the pain, and you're free of that for the rest of your eternity. I think it's a good deal. Anyone will take that deal, right? But because we are like the horses, we do things in our lives that doesn't allow us to have a great perspective, a great vision, a greater understand of things with clear clarity. We need to accept. You have to have what we call the active resignation, which means that you resign to the will of things that we cannot change, to the will of God, the things that we cannot change. You do the best with that, and it will go away, and will pass. All the storm passes, and there is always a calm after the storm. But one must have faith for that. Questions, comment?
Okay.
And I think everyone if have had experiences to go through afflictions ourselves, or loved ones around us, and recognize which time, not at that moment that you're going through that, but way after. And so you know what? That was actually a good thing, because otherwise that would happen. That wouldn't happen, right? But not at the moment. At the moment that you're going through that, pain is pain. Pain is painful, right?
Yeah.
So it takes time for you to be able to recognize the usefulness of that pain. And if you do that, I think we have moved a good step upwards towards our path of moral progress. If you stagnate, always complaining, and feel that feeling of injustice or whatever to the affliction that you pass through, is a sign that we are kind of delaying our own progress. Comments? All right. 27.
Yes. Almighty God, who sees our misery, deign to listen favorably to the pleas I send to you at this moment. If my request is inappropriate, forgive me. If it is just and useful in your sight, may good spirits who carry out your will come to my aid for its fulfillment. Whatever may come my way, dear God, may your will be done. If my desires are not heeded, it is because it is within your designs to test me, and I submit myself without complaint. Enable me not to become discouraged by this, and may neither my faith nor my resignation be shaken. Make the request.
Yeah, and everyone is free to make a request right at this moment. The word that we always use is active resignation, right? And I think the word active and associated resignation is extremely important. Let's resign to the will of God for the things that we cannot do anything about it. You know, you got a new diagnosis of cancer. What can you do about it? There is chemotherapy, there is surgery, there is radiation therapy. What is the prognosis? It's X, Y, Z for each one of them, and it's going to be painful. Yes, it's going to be pain associated with it. Should I go ahead and do what's available to me to try to free myself from that cancer? Yes, absolutely. Why not? That's why we have technology. That's why God gives us intelligence to try to resolve those things. Not all of them will be successful. Not all of them will not even perhaps prolong much of our incarnation, but we did what was at our disposal. Resign to the will of God and accept the consequences of that new diagnosis, but using what we have the best to prolong, even for an extra day, our existence here. We'll come to a time that you say, okay, I did my fight. I am quite content if divine if God decides that it's time for me to go, I no longer want to prolong any treatment. It's also a useful decision. It's also a means of resignation after you're done your fight, after you put your effort. I don't have a problem with that. Also, some people may have, but I think this is also valid. But regardless of your decision of moving towards one direction or another, you go with that resignation that if God is allowing me to go through this, it is of the good that I am to collect from this, instead of the rebelliousness. I think all this chapter here, especially this item, is a antidote to rebelliousness. Right. Regardless of afflictions you get in life, do not rebel. One thing for sure, it's not God's fault. Go ahead, Emily.
Hello, everyone. I think resignation first and foremost, requires some element of trust in God. Because I don't understand how one would resign and submit to another's will, unless, of course, they trust that what they're going to do is in their best interest. So I think many of us struggle with the idea of resigning because perhaps we have not had the opportunities to be in situations where we have had to develop that intimate trust and relationship with God in such a way that we know that whatever He decides, it decides, then it's for our own will. It's for our own good. I know I speak from my own personal experience. I have had to endure some situations where um, proverbially it's just me, my back against the wall, and in my mind it's just me and God. And had I not gone through those situations, I would not have had developed the kind of trust that I believe I now have with God, to the point that to a certain extent it is not difficult for me to resign. So I think that many of us struggle first and foremost with resigning, overcoming that sense of rebelliousness and that pride that we have within us, because we just have not had that opportunity to develop that kind of trust with God.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you see how Kardec puts things together, in a building up, build blocks together, right? I mean, to ask for counsel comes right before the afflictions. And when you are faced with the affliction, you ask for counsel. What should I do in this thing here? What decision should I take over here? What should I trust over here? And then you go to the afflictions. I think there is many ways, and this me particularly. I was listening to a lecture yesterday of a scientist that there is many ways to have that resignation and many ways to have that trust in God, and some of that way is quite unconscious for someone who was not exposed to religiosity, was not raised with any sense of spirituality or religiosity, may still have that, perhaps unconscious, um, faith in some form or something of abstract that is not palpable, that's not truly scientific. The other day, I heard a doctor saying that what's amazing is not people end up with cancer. What is really amazing is that not everyone ends up with cancer. If you consider the possibility of getting cancer, there's a result of one little thing that goes wrong in the reproduction of cells, and that little thing is not picked up by an immune system and develops in a tumor and develops into a cancer, right? And if that little tumor is spread like fire, it's malignant. If it doesn't, it's benign. Basically, right? And if you think that we are changing ourselves in a matter of trillions, right? All the skin cells of that are change every single day, all the intestine lining that are change every single day, every single cell, right? We change those every day, and most of the time, by far most of the time, things goes as planned. There is not a mistake, or if there is a little mistake, our immune system pick that up and takes care of that mistake. Would be more likely to understand if there was not a very precise system that is not only created but maintained by a power, we all should end up with cancer. What is the chance that trillions of cells every single day, everything goes right every single time? Only by having that understanding, even without spirituality, we have that resigned, so to say, that when I end up with cancer, I say, well, by the law of probabilities, it's quite all right. And it is. Even though I am one out of thousands, but it happens to me. The same way it could happen to my neighbor, someone else. This time was to me. That's a form of resignation. Now, what do you do with this? Is what really matters. Are you able to learn the lessons that diagnosis came for you? That I think you need to go more into a more spiritualized state of mind in your, how do you do with this? Sally?
To me, I don't think resignation is always born of trust. Sometimes it's just born from the acceptance that you actually can't change anything personally. So if you have no power to move the world and the stars and make the moon come up at the right time and sunset at the right time, then really one has so little influence that to be resigned to the greater scheme of things and how it's playing out in one's life is often the only option. You can't fight it.
I agree 100% with you. And yet there are those who would have a different state of mind, right? Why me? That's not fair, right? Even though we cannot change, even though by laws of probability, by laws of nature, you should say, yeah, that time was me. It could be someone else. But some people still rebel against it. But I agree with you 100%. Just by
because it's
understanding
not
a little bit of nature and laws of probability is in itself a great tool for us to have a resignation.
It doesn't always involve trust. It's
What was the word they use? I'm sorry, pressed?
Pardon?
What's the word they use? It does research.
Trust.
Oh, trust. So yeah, trust. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But that's why it was with the conscious. There gotta be something in there, maybe perhaps unconscious, that we have that trust. What do we call that innate faith that is discussed in this book also?
Yeah, well, that's what I suppose I'm debating is that it may not involve trust. Acceptance and trust are two different things. One has to accept it and therefore are resigned to it.
Yeah.
But maybe it isn't because you trust it's all going to work out fine, or you have faith that it will work out. It's just that you don't have the power to change anything, and you accept that. You accept your own limitations more than accepting that the trust that the right thing will come out. You can have, I mean, and I don't refer now, yes, I agree. I've seen that actually it plays out in ways that when one looks back, you say, yes, it was possibly the best way. But there was a long time where I had a lot of anxiety about how something was playing out, but you have no alternative other than to be resigned to the fact that that's what's going to happen, and you might as well give up and go with the flow.
Yeah, no, I agree with that also. Trust and resignation are two different things. We may trust until something happens, and then even without our trust, we don't resign for that event.
Yes.
Yeah, I trust in God.
That's what I mean. Yes, is
Yeah,
you can't trust if say your father's got cancer, you can't trust, oh, this is for the good, because it doesn't feel that way. But you can be resigned to the fact that it is what's going to happen, and you don't have a choice in the matter. And in the greater scheme of things, somehow you hope that things will work out in one way or another.
Yeah, I agree with you. Trust and resignation are two different things. I may trust God or the church every single day, carry the Bible under my arms, and God is this and Jesus is that, until I got a diagnosis and I ask, why me? That's not fair. Right? I've been faithful to you all this time, and you let that happen to me. You know. Okay, any more comments, any more questions? All right, so 28 now, and
Yes.
that is
Thanksgiving for a favor received. Introduction. One must not only consider matters of great importance as happy events. Those least in appearance are often the ones that have the most influence in our destiny. People easily forget the good and remember especially what afflicts them. If we will recall every day the benefits we have received without having asked for them, we would often be surprised at the number that has slipped our memory, and we would be humbled by our ingratitude. Each night, as we lift our soul to God, we should remember the favors granted during the day and give thanks for them. Moreover, it is especially for the moment when we feel the effects of God's goodness and protection that we should, in a spontaneous gesture, render thanks. In this case, it is sufficient to elevate a thought attributing the benefit to God without having to disrupt our work. God's benefits do not consist only in material things. We should also give thanks for the good ideas and the happy inspirations that are suggested to us. While the proud attribute the benefit to themselves and disbelievers attribute them to chance, those who have faith render thanks to God and the good spirits. For this, long phrases are not necessary. Thank you, my God, for the good thought you have inspired me with. Says more than a lot of words. The spontaneous impulse that makes us attribute to God the good that comes to us bears witness to a habit of acknowledgement and humility that attracts the sympathy of good spirits.
Mother Teresa says that praying is an exercise of development of the desire, right? How to advance with the things that you desire. I think it's not necessary to say that if you do a very thorough analysis of everything that happened to us throughout the day before you fall asleep, you'll be amazed at how much we receive throughout the day, how much we really have to be grateful for every single day. And of course, not talking about the big things, right? Not talking about winning the lotto, that'll be only one in about 1 billion people to have the opportunity to be grateful for that. But for the small things that are the elements to build up a better life for us, to build up our moral and our intellectual progress. Those little things that we kind of take for granted. You know, I have a loved one in the hospital right now for about 1.5 months, who was very active, doing yoga, this and all that. And the muscle turned to butter because of not being used. It required immense amounts of rehab, of physical therapy to get those muscles back in order to function. Do we ever give thanks to God that we have that muscle part that allow us to get out of bed and walk right and left? We have a friend here with us having problems with back pain. Do you recognize how wonderful it is to be able to get up, stand up, and not have any pain? To be able to bend and pick up something that fall on the floor without screaming out of pain? There's a lot of people going through that right now. Do we have to remind ourselves every single night that, oh, my muscles are at work, thank God, my muscles are at work. Thank God, my lungs are free of water when I lay flat. I don't suffocate and drown myself in water in my lungs. That people are going through that right now. that my kidneys is filtering my blood and everything is working as it should. Do I have to give thanks to God for all of those things every night? Perhaps not. I don't think so. But I have the recognition that all those things are in order. All those things are the way it should be in accordance to what we define as good health. Is granted by divine benevolence. We may say, oh, kidney is not working because you are abusing a kidney, because maybe. But a lot of people does not abuse the kidneys and end up in a hemodialysis also. Maybe self-inflicted at this moment. If you're not self-inflicted at this moment, likely was self-inflicted in the past, and now you are dealing with the consequence of action in the past. Right? But one thing goes to consider, and the manual says that once Chico Xavier used to that commonly went to jail and spent time with the prisoners over there, talked to them. And when he was walking there, feeling the presence of Emmanuel, he asked Emmanuel, just in case, is his spiritual guide, his mentor, spiritual mentor. And then Chico asked Emmanuel, who are these people here? And his answers was, those are all of us who got caught. Which means that we are all in debt with this divine law. If not with the physical law, hopefully not, most of us. We are all in debt somehow. If God would apply his justice, in a very one by one, an eye for an eye, so to say, we all be in jail. But divine benevolence is so good that, as Paul says, one good erases 100 bad, 1,000 bad. We need to be thankful to that. Most of us are abusing our kidneys of that drugs by not drinking enough water. And we still go out of this reincarnation without a kidney problem. All of us are committing some errors in accordance with divine laws, unless you guys are all angels, right? And we are receiving forgiveness, we're receiving an understanding, a compassion, and indulgence. And you should be grateful for that, on the little things, not the really big things. So we are receiving favors all day long, all the time. Again, those in prisons are one who got caught. Meaning they should be there, they just didn't get caught. And we might understand that we are in debt with the divine ones. And we receive the favor, the forgiveness, the indulgence of the divine laws on a daily basis consistently. And you should be grateful to that. And all those little things that you take for granted, that we recognize how powerful and strong they are once they are not there. When you don't have muscle strength to get out of bed, when you don't have muscle strength to hold a glass of water to drink, then we will see how wonderful it is to have that muscle power, that muscle strength. It's not necessary to lift, a 300-pound bar, but to lift a glass of water. Thanks God. Do we have to give thanks to God for every single thing? Perhaps not, but recognize that all those things we should be grateful. And Kardec brings to us then the act of prayer is a moment of connection, of energy, that it does not require eloquence of speech, does not require to kneel or to sit or to go in the process of meditation, the recognition, the intelligence of the heart, as Jesus would say, would project almost by itself that thought of thanks God. Thank you, my God, for the good that you have inspired me with. In the decision making, should I go right or left? Right or left is also a very broad things over here, and you'll be inspired to go to the better side. It's not that you have to spend 10 minutes looking for words to speak with God. Open your heart and say, thanks, God. And the recognition that in many situations, I would not get it right on my own. In many situations, without that inspiration, that guidance, chances are we would not get it. If you know ourselves and are very sincere with ourselves. So when the prayer says, I would be unworthy of them if I attributed them to chance or to my own merit. Well, as a spiritist, we do not consider chance at all, right? And as spiritists, we have to consider the possibility that not everything is our merit. Again, there is a lot of indulgence and forgiveness from this divine law that does not put us in jail. They give us the benefit of the doubt at least. They give us the understanding that as quite ignorant spirits yet, we are due to make some of those mistakes, so I'm not going to put you in jail. But you have the opportunity to understand why that was a ill decision and how to do better next time. Okay, comments, questions? Okay, number 30.
Okay. The act of submission and resignation. Introduction. When a reason for affliction strikes us, if we look for a cause.
Did we read the prayer? Did you read the prayer?
I think so, did you?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you read now then.
Oh, okay. Number 29. Infinitely good God, may your name be blessed for the benefits you have bestowed on me. I would be unworthy of them if I attributed them to chance or my own merit. Good spirits who have carried out God's will, especially you, my guardian angel, I give you thanks. Keep me from the thought of being proud for what I have received or of using it for something that is not good. I thank you particularly for.
And anyone can use the moment and show gratitude for some specific thing, if you have anything in mind. I think the petition over here, it's, I guess in every prayer there is this three aspects, the worship, the gratitude, the petition, right? Over here is although is a prayer for Thanksgiving, there is the petition here, right? Keep me from the thought of being proud for what I have received or for using it for something that is not good. I think this is fundamental also. Yeah, you received. Now, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to show any humility in being grateful for what you received? Or are you going to show your proud and say, I done it myself? And more important, what do you do with it? You're blessed with good health. What do you do with it? You're blessed with the ability, with great intellectual ability. You learn things easily. You're able to process things in your mind at a good pace. What do you do with it? You have this great athletic ability. What do you do with it? How all those talents are used for your own good and for good of your community. I think it's something that you should consider, that even in a part of Thanksgiving, Kardec used the three elements of a prayer: worship, petition, gratitude. The worship, infinitely good God, that's worship. And give the thanks, and that is the petition that we just mentioned. Okay, comments? But it's
Okay, yes.
the noise behind me of people walking the house.
Okay. The act of submission and resignation. 30, introduction. When a reason for affliction strikes us, if we look for its cause, we will often find that it is the consequences of our imprudence, lack of foresight, or previous action. In this case, we must attribute it only to ourselves. If the cause of a misfortune is independent of any participation on our part, it is either a trial for this life or an expiation for a past existence. In the latter case, the nature of the expiation can enable us to understand the nature of the wrong, because we are always punished wherein we have sinned. Regarding what afflicts us, generally we see only the present ill and not the final favorable consequences that it may hold. Frequently, the good comes from a temporary ill, just as the healing of a sickness is a result of the painful means that have been employed to obtain it. In all cases, we should submit to God's will and courageously bear life's tribulations if we want them to be taken into account. And so that these words of Christ may be applicable to us, blessed are they who suffer.
Okay, can go with the prayer, otherwise I'll forget again.
Okay. Dear God, you are supremely just. Every instance of suffering in this world must therefore have its cause and usefulness. I accept the reason for this affliction that I am experiencing as an expiation for my past wrongs and as a trial for the future. Good spirits watching over me, give me the strength to bear it without complaint. Enable it to be for me a healthy warning. May it increase my experience. May it combat my pride, ambition, foolish vanity, and selfishness. And may it thereby contribute to my advancement.
Thanks. As Judah always says, if there is one thing that perhaps for most of us is a blind faith, is the belief in one and only God, who is all love and justice. I'm kind of disagree. I think that there is a rationality that leads us to have this knowledge, not to know God, but to know the existence of a good and just God. But I do accept that it might be blind faith. Although I disagree, I consider the possibility that it's maybe a blind faith. But I think that we can reason the existence of one and only God that is absolute perfection of love and justice. And the whole Spiritist doctrine and everything that we're talking about here needs this foundation. Without this understanding or this blind faith, this whole thing falls apart. It becomes hard to accept all this without the certainty of God that is all love and justice. And that in itself is an act of submission and resignation. Again, this is my understanding, okay? And with that, we have that the belief of what, the trust of what Paul says, right? That love covers a multitude of errors. That if anything happens to us is for our good. And although it's impossible to recognize, that's not impossible, but it's hard. So it's possible, but it's hard to recognize at the moment that you are going to that pain, that you are going to that difficulty. An act of submission, resignation will lead us in the process to have that, right? To understand if it's, I'm going to all this pain, all this suffering, there's got to be something good about it. Let me find out what is the good about it and use it and put it to work for me. And if something that happens to us in affliction and in difficulties, most of the time is consequence something of this incarnation. If you have a really objective and fair and just analysis of our action in the past, you probably will find the cause of the effects that you're feeling at that moment. If you do all that and can get to that conclusion, then you, as a spiritist, we assume that the cause is from previous lives, or previous incarnations. Or it's just a necessary trial, which is not an affliction. It should not be an affliction. The way they like to differentiate trials and atonements is trials is just new lessons that you need to go through. And the difference is like in our academic progress, let's say in mathematics, we start by counting, no? We learn to count, and then you start to put things together, and you learn to add, and then you learn to take things apart, to subtract, and things go on, and keep learning. Come to a point that you're going to do fraction. It's a trial. Now you're going to have to do division with numbers on top of the order with a little thing dividing those two numbers. You have to understand that there's nothing more than the division, and the numbers not always going to be an exact number, and you go through all that. We all went through that. Someone will rebel against that. Someone will look forward to that. I'm sure that we all went through our experiences as students, and I don't want to give mine because I don't want you guys to cry. As a student, that we pretty much reject the opportunity of learn something, of gain something. Fractions, what do I need this thing for? This is stupid. This makes no sense. And someone else in the same classroom, wow, that's a new way of doing division. That's great. I love it. Let's get this done and jump head first in these new opportunities, and others procrastinate, complain. It's not bad. It's not good. It's what you choose of it. It's not trial. It's a learning opportunity. Those who apply do the best, they move on. Those who reject, who absolutely refuse to do it, can have to repeat that year and do it all over again. That's an atonement. Trials always, it's just part of growing up. Atonement is consequence of rebelliousness. So to have this act of resignation is to have to understand that if I'm going to this difficulty now, it is a wonderful trial, something that I have to learn. Let me learn this fraction now, so when I have to do trigonometry, I have no problem with fraction. At least that I got it out of my way. I'll be good with that, right? But if you rebels against fraction, you're not going to do well with anything else ahead of your mathematical progress. You're not going to be able to do trigonometry. You're going to have to go back and learn fraction on top of learning trigonometry. Atonement. No longer trial anymore. The trial was when you had the opportunity to do it at the right time and nothing else on top of it. By rebelliousness and the law of justice, no, it's a trial. But then you learn and you apply and you do what you have to do and you learn the fractions and the trigonometry with all the struggle that it brings to you and you move on. Because then you can understand. To have that understanding in life is what leads us to our submission and resignation. If I'm going through this right now, it is an important trial. I need to know, I need to learn, so I can make my life easier in the future. Or I procrastinated in the past, I rebelled in the past, and now there is an accumulation of things that I have to do. I'm overwhelmed, but if God allows me to go through this now, because now I'm ready to do it. Now I can handle it. Now I will put all my best effort and get through it. This is the act of submission and resignation. Even in the moment where we are going through it. And again, easy for me to say when my life is wonderful and everything is fine, right? When I'm not living those calamities, I'm far from it and watching from afar. The wars and the fire here and the excess of water there, the lack of water here. And I'm so privileged that I'll witness this from a distance. But what if I was having it? Would have that act of submission and resignation as requires faith to go through that. And when Jesus says, blessed are they who suffer, it is really to scratch your head and say, what? But if the point is, if God, if the divine justice, divine laws, puts that weight on your shoulder now, it's because you're strong to carry it. It's because you have the strength to go through it. And that's why you are blessed, because you are ready to go through that and get rid of it. Now you can do your trigonometry and fraction at the same time because you have what it takes to do it. You procrastinated in the past, you rebelled in the past. It took a while for you to build up the strength to be able to go back and face those trials that now have been pretty much an atonement, but now you can deal with that. And that's why you are blessed. You are blessed because now divine justice sees you ready, competent to face and overcome. And the ones who are not blessed for their own cause, of course, are the ones that continue to rebel. I continue to see the necessity to readjust oneself with the laws. To reject, to see that I'm not going to be able to do trigonometry for a no fraction. I have to go back and do it. For as long as I deny that, I'm not going to do well on my academic progress. As long as I don't understand that God is so loving just and has created a system of laws that is meant to keep us at happiness. And that's what it says in the Spirit's book, right? When the Kardec asks, what are those divine laws? The answer is, those are laws created by God for your happiness. You want to be happy? Go with those laws. You go against it, the consequences are there. But divine justice always find or provide you means to you to readjust with those justice. And that may be difficult, and you require submission and resignation. All right, no comments?
Okay. Number 32. Dear God, I feel the need to pray to you to give me strength to bear the trials you have sent. Allow the light to shine brightly within my spirit so that I may appreciate the full extent of a love that afflicts me in order to save me. I submit myself with resignation, dear God, but woe unto me. Human beings are so weak that if you do not uphold me, I fear that I will succumb. Do not forsake me, Lord, for without you I am nothing.
And I think this is a very important point here is I fear that I will succumb. I understand what I have just said there, that whatever we're going through now is consequences of my rebelliousness. It's consequence of my procrastination. It's consequence of my laziness. Because you not put me to grow through this difficulty if I didn't have to readjust myself with the divine laws. I understand that, I resign to that, but I ask, please help me. Send help because there's a good chance that I'm gonna fail again without your help. There's a good chance that without you by my side, I'm not gonna be able to pass this trial and move on. So help me, be with me. So again, it's a very important part of the petition, I think, is a very strong exercise of humbleness to say, without you, I'm weak. Without all that assistance, chances are you succumb to the same temptations that led me to the mistakes that I made, and now I have to deal with this thing. Help me to not succumb to those mistakes. Help me to be vigilant. Okay? No comments? Okay, 33, I think we can stop at 33.
Right?
Yes, 33. I lift my eyes to you, Eternal One, and I feel strengthened. You are my strength. Do not forsake me. Dear God, I am crushed under the weight of my iniquities. Help me. You know the weakness of my flesh. Do not look away from me. I am overcome by a burning thirst. Pour forth your spring of living water, and I will feel refreshed. May my mouth open only to sing your praises and not to complain about the afflictions of my life. Lord, I am weak, but your love shall uphold me. Eternal One, only you are great. Only you are the reason and the purpose of my life. May your name be praised even if you strike me, for you are the Lord, and I am your faithful servant. And I will bow my head without complaining, for only you are great. You are only the purpose of my life.
I think it's a very, 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 very powerful prayer. I think the utmost pour out of harmonies and faith and humility and everything's contained in these few words over here. Because again, it's easy for us to have all this submission, resignation when our life is so. Maybe I'm speaking only for myself here. Let me do that. I'm speaking for myself now, okay? And my life is so good, and the tries that I have are so doable that I really feel privileged. But I do also know that things can change on the next minute. Nobody knows if I have a timing bomb right here in my brain, a little aneurysm ready to pop, and then I go lose one side of my body for the rest of my life. No, nobody's doing brain MRI to check if they have an aneurysm or not, right? Things can change drastically in 1 second, in 1 minute. So I do feel that I am really privileged. The question is, what if the little time bomb goes off in my brain? Would I still appreciate this reading as much? Would I still be able to go to this prayer and say, Lord, I am weak, but your love shall hold me? At that moment of struggle, at the moment that I lost half of my body, the ability to speak, that somebody gonna have to put food in my mouth and clean me up when I go to the bathroom for the rest of my life. We have the ability to say, thank for this. Probably not a trial, I won't say a trial. Thanks for the atonement. If you judge that I am ready to deal with and conquer this affliction, thank you for that. Help me collect all the necessary lessons contained in this affliction. Of course, we would like to be able to do that, right? And I think the exercise that you do here, going through this few minutes that we spent together reflecting on those things, is perhaps what will give us the potential of having that state of mind, to resign, to have this act of submission, resignation to the will of God, to this divine law that is meant for happiness as the eternal spirit. That it's probably not going to be fun to lose half side of your body and not be able to speak for the rest of this incarnation, and still have a few years ahead of you like that, right? And have that faith to be grateful for the opportunity of going to this trial that you join, of atonement, that you judge that I'm able to conquer, and therefore I trust you. If you think that I'm good to go, I'm good to go. I think this number 22 is an exercise of absolute humbleness. And it's perhaps the greatest worship that you can have to God, to say, whatever you send my way, I know it's for my good, because you know everything. I'm not going to go over to the next one now. We'll start another discussion. So anybody has any comments, anything to add?
So next Sunday, we study the Medium's book. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Carol, gonna do a final prayer?
Yes, excuse me. Thank you very much, Elmo. Thank you very much, John. And thank you, Sarita, for reading for us today. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 28. Asking for counsel can assist us with our intent and usefulness of a prayer when in doubt. May we be guided to sincerely assess the circumstances and possible results of our prayers. May the good spirits effectively guide us and those who need the benefit of our prayers. May we respect and trust situations which impose a trial or an expiation, which may require resignation without complaint. May this assist us with our development and our advancement. May we daily recall all the goodness and blessings received. May our gratitude not be underestimated even for small favors, ideas, protections, and a well-functioning physical body. May we adjust and be aligned with the divine laws. May we have the strength to endure. Infinite Creator, we are grateful to be together again as brothers and sisters. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, the mediums, the workers, and all who are participating. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world. May they grow, prosper, expand, and be protected by day and by night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace prevail. So be it.